It's 4 o'clock. The top stories live on 7 News. The race to save neighbouring homes from a ferocious Putney blaze. The dramatic takedown of Donald Trump's would-be assassin. And a win for drivers in a Sydney parking ticket overhaul.
This is 7 News with Amber Laidler.
Good afternoon. Fire has destroyed a home at Putney in Sydney's northwest, and firefighters say there was little they could do to save it. The blaze is still smouldering this afternoon, and as Andrew Jenny reports, neighbours have described it as a hoarder's home.
Well, this intense fire broke out at this home at Putney just after 10 o'clock this morning, and now around 6 hours on, things are still smouldering. That's because of what's being described as a major fuel load both in and outside this house. Pictures show it is a junkyard of burning possessions firefighters have had to deal with.
There was a significant amount of flame and a high fuel load at the residence, which created quite a fierce fire, and took firefighters quite a while to contain it and protect those other adjoining houses.
Now, at the peak of this blaze, 8 neighbouring homes had to be evacuated as over 30 firefighters worked to stop these flames from spreading. Because of how dangerous the conditions were here, crews couldn't get inside and they had to use hoses and ladder trucks to knock these flames down. Fortunately, no other homes were damaged, but the house where the fire began was destroyed. Neighbours saying they'd complained to council before, fearing something like this would happen.
All the neighbours were. I've been here 6 years now, and my family have been here 35 years, and this has always been a concern here with this property.
Now, the owner of this home was out at the time. He says he has no idea how this blaze started.
When I got up this morning, I didn't turn the toaster on, didn't turn the kettle on. All I did in the kitchen was check the mousetrap.
Now, after a busy day, crews have just about got things under control here at Putney. An investigation now underway into how this blaze was started, ahead of what is expected to be a very big clean-up.
Cancer-causing chemicals in some of Sydney's drinking water could be far higher than first thought. PFAS chemicals flowing into a Blue Mountains dam have been detected at levels more than 50 times higher than the Australian standard. Independent tests have confirmed so-called forever chemicals have already passed into the World Heritage Area around Sydney. We'll take a closer look at the issue and the potential problems it could cause with expert insight just after 4:30. One of the federal government's key election promises is hanging in the balance. Live now to political reporter Rob Scott in Canberra. Rob, senators are arguing over Labor's shared equity scheme.
Amber, after more than 200 days stuck in the Senate, the government was hopeful of bringing its help to buy policy to a vote today. This is a shared equity scheme that will see the government loan applicants up to 40% of the purchase price of a home, helping 40,000 low and middle income earners onto the property ladder. But the bill is friendless in the Senate. The coalition says people don't want to own a home with the government, and the Greens say it'll just turbocharge the housing crisis. Now, to avoid bringing it to a vote before question time today, the government accused the Greens of filibustering, soaking up valuable time by delaying a decision.
Instead of actually taking the significant action that is required to address this housing crisis, instead of doing that, Labor is fiddling around at the margins because they want to be seen to be doing something even though they're not actually doing anything.
Instead of talking about what we're not doing, why don't you talk about what we're doing? Why don't you allow us to bring on a vote on the bill?
The government tried to bring on a vote for a second time after question time, but that was also voted down.
We've had the extreme right of Australian politics and the extreme left of Australian politics pair up for what purpose? To stop young people being able to buy a home.
Despite delaying a decision, the Greens say that they are willing to negotiate to pass this legislation. They want the government to cap rent increases, phase out negative gearing and capital gains tax discounts for property investors. But those are areas that Labor is just not willing to give ground on. So this stalemate continues. Amber.
Rob Scott in Canberra, thank you. The details of the Trump assassination attempt have been laid bare as the man accused of plotting the death of the former president appears in court. The suspect's extensive criminal history has been revealed, along with an obsession with Russia's war in Ukraine. US Bureau Chief David Woywood reports.
Good afternoon. Well, Ryan Wesley Routh, the 58-year-old at the centre of this apparent assassination plot, has appeared very briefly in a West Palm Beach courthouse today on 2 guns charges. They include possession of a firearm as a felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Now, we are learning more about the detail of this alleged plot. Investigators now say that Routh lay waiting in the bushes bordering Donald Trump's Florida golf course for around 12 hours. They've determined that using mobile phone data in the region. Routh was armed with a Soviet-era style weapon. He had food and supplies, seemingly ready to wait this out on the chance that the former president would pass by. This new body camera footage too shows his dramatic arrest on a freeway as he tried to flee. As Donald Trump today, speaking on a live stream on X, addressed the moment bullets started flying.
All of a sudden we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets. And they grabbed me and we got into the carts and we moved along pretty good. I was with an agent and the agent did a fantastic job. There was no question that we were off that course.
In addition, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they have also shared a phone call today. Look, it's been described as cordial. The former president even giving his thanks at the end before Joe Biden again addressed the matter of political violence in America.
America suffered too many times the tragedy of an assassin's bullet. It solves nothing and just tears the country apart.
Joe Biden is now ramping up pressure on Congress to pass emergency assistance to the Secret Service to ensure the safety of both candidates after another violent turn in this election campaign.
Still in the US, and a closed-door hearing in Nevada is underway to determine the future of Rupert Murdoch's media empire. The news tycoon is trying to amend the trust to guarantee his companies, News Corp and Fox Corp, remain in the control of his eldest son Lachlan after his death. It is against the current terms, which would see power split between Lachlan and his 3 siblings. Grace Fitzgibbon joins us now with the latest on Sydney's weather. Afternoon, Grace. Another day full of sunshine.
Good afternoon, Amber. Yes, it's been absolutely gorgeous. This is how the day panned out over the Hawkesbury River. A beautiful sunrise this morning, turning into a clear, calm day with plenty of blue sky. In Sydney's CBD was another cool start, though. 9 degrees was the low at 6 a.m, warming to a top of 20 at around midday. And temperatures were much the same right across the state today. We did see some chilly minimums dropping into the minuses overnight in the south and across the central west. -2 for those in Bathurst. That's almost as cold as Thredbo with -3. But once the sun came out, it was otherwise nice and clear. If we take a look at the latest satellite map, a series of cold fronts have formed in the south and are headed in our direction. They are likely to cross New South Wales tomorrow, keeping morning temperatures slightly below average. But there is still plenty of sunshine about this week. I'll have your full forecast coming up soon. Amber?
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Grace. Still to come in Sydney's afternoon news on 7, the sneaky tactic used by parking rangers that's about to be outlawed. A chilling final message sent by the crew of an ill-fated Titanic expedition. And fashion in focus, a special look at an iconic label in the 90s. Welcome back to 7's afternoon news. There's plenty of sunshine about Sydney and right across the state. You're looking at Oberon, where it is a crisp 13 degrees. It's being hailed as a win for drivers across Sydney. Council rangers will now be banned from issuing ticketless parking fines, giving motorists a chance to dispute penalties if they're stung. I spoke with the NRMA's Peter Coury earlier this afternoon. Thanks so much for your time, Peter. Now, this is a practice that's been described as a bit sneaky. Is a ban the right decision?
Oh, look, absolutely the right decision by the New South Wales government. The NRMA commends them on closing this pretty significant and very unpopular loophole. And we are pleased today that there will be transparency returned to the way we enforce parking in New South Wales, because there's only limited spaces and we've got to share them, and people who abuse the system need to be fined and should be fined, but we also need a system that has transparency, and that's been lacking.
Local councils were previously told to stop but didn't. Is it disappointing that it's taken this long to resolve?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and the reason for that is quite simple. The system that they introduced made it almost impossible for motorists to A, be able to identify that they have actually been fined, and B, then potentially contest that fine if they thought they had a legitimate case. And it is sometimes the case that people can contest their fine and be successful, and often it can be because the signage was covered or poor. There are always circumstances that motorists might find themselves in to at least give themselves that opportunity to contest it. So the system took that away from the public. There seemed to be a lack of understanding from some of these councils about why that was important, why transparency in this enforcement program is important. But we're very pleased that the government has stepped in today and resolved this matter, hopefully. And the onus now, of course, is on councils to work with government to get back to a common sense approach.
It's reported councils raked in as much as $155 million through the fines last year. Is there more work to be done to give Sydney drivers more parking options?
Yeah, look, absolutely the case. And what we saw with this ticketless parking system was once the councils, the ones that did introduce them, collectively saw a spike of almost 50% in the number of fines that they were issuing. So that did not help the situation at all. And the NRMA's view is use data strategically here. So if councils know that there are locations where people are consistently being fined over and over again, above and beyond what is the norm, then look to ways to solve that problem. There may be engineering solutions or better signage required, more parking options in the area. Don't just keep fining people. We want a system that works. Councils have a job to do to manage the limited parking infrastructure that they have. So let's get to the right outcome. And if we're seeing people being fined in the same location over and over, well, there may be other solutions.
Peter Corey, thank you so much for your time once again this afternoon. The last message sent by the crew on the ill-fated Titan submersible has been revealed. A long-awaited US Coast Guard hearing was told they sent a 3-word text to a support ship on the surface that read, "All good here." The vessel then lost contact and imploded. All 5 people on board were killed. 10 former Ocean Gate employees will give testimony at the inquiry in South Carolina. Rapper Sean Diddy Combs has found himself in more legal trouble this afternoon, arrested by US federal agents. It follows a string of sex trafficking accusations and assault lawsuits. Officers are reportedly scouring his hotel and home, but specific charges haven't been revealed. Paralympic golden girl Alexa Leary has touched down in Brisbane, busting out her best dance moves after her world record-breaking performance in Paris. Rachel Baxter was there to welcome her home and find out what's next for the world champion.
Good afternoon. She is the queen of the pool. Alexa Leary has touched down in Brisbane after winning 2 golds and a silver at the Paralympic Games. Despite the big flight from Dubai, she was full of energy, showing off her medals and dancing just like she did on the podium in Paris after storming to victory in the women's 100-metre freestyle. The achievement marking another incredible milestone in what this 23-year-old terms her second life. She fell off her bike in a near-fatal accident in 2021, leaving her with brain damage and several long-term injuries. And more than once, doctors informed her parents, Russ and Belinda, they should prepare to say goodbye to their daughter. Then, a clairvoyant predicted that the swimmer would rise to become a Paralympic gold medalist, and she has done just that. Here's a little of what she had to say after touching back down on home soil this morning.
I've got my eye on worlds again next year. I'm just always on the go, so I just can't stop. I'm feeling so good. I'm really proud of myself, but I just love the fact that my family and my boyfriend came with me.
And her parents touched back down in Brisbane this morning as well after a family holiday in Greece for about a week or so. As for Leary, she says it is straight back to business. Her eyes are once again set on another Olympic Games.
Next in 7's afternoon news sport with Mel McLaughlin, including Nicho Hynes and the Sharks trying to ignore critics and end their 8-game finals losing streak. Also, the Roosters still talking up their title chances. And later, the true cost of Sydney's water contamination, what it means for your health.
The biggest transformation to aged care in Australia's history is here. 5 must-see stories over 5 nights, from the senior Australians living in luxury for less to revolutionary at-home care on a budget. We reveal how to set yourself and your loved ones up for A+ aged care. 7 News at 6.
Tonight in 7 News, fire emergency in Sydney's north. What sparked this inferno at Putney? New video, how police caught Donald Trump's would-be assassin. Big changes to Sydney's parking ticket rules. Build the ambitious plan to make our southwest look like Manhattan, and Sydney's very own Hamburger Court. That's at 6.
It's time for sport with Mel McLaughlin. Mel, the Sharks are still backing Nicho Hynes.
Yeah, they are. Amber Cronulla, they resisted calls to axe their star halfback for Friday night's elimination final against the Cowboys with his club on an 8 finals losing streak. Hynes says he's blocking out the criticism he knows will continue for the rest of his career. Andrew McKinley has more from Shark Park.
Well, 8 is enough. That's how many finals the Sharks have lost in a row. And the focus is on their halfback, Nicho Hynes, yet again, who's determined this Friday night against the Cowboys to shut out the mainstream media, the social media and the white noise.
I've just tried to avoid it as much as I can. I've got to really focus on what this team needs from me, and my team needs me present.
Greats of the game such as Gordon Tallis and Greg Alexander have called for Hynes to be dropped for Friday night's final against the Cowboys, but the halfback has the full backing of his coach and his teammates.
I've been hearing that there's a bit of stick given to Nicho, and I mean, look, rugby leagues are very much a team sport, so I don't understand how one man can cop flack for an entire team's performance.
And for now at least, playing footy is still fun.
I've got a good life and I get to wake up happy every single day and with special people around me.
In 2022, the Sharks lost to the Cowboys. That night, Valentine Holmes kicked a 2-point field goal to get the Cowboys home. As fate would have it, Valentine Holmes is again playing against the Sharks this Friday night.
Thank you, Andrew. And the Roosters are sticking with under fire replacement halfback Sandon Smith for Saturday night's clash with Manly, despite injuries and their qualifying final defeat to the Panthers. Confidence hasn't wavered for the Tricolours.
When you look around the changing room, we've got so many, star players here. We want to be in the grand final. We want to win the comp, and that's still the goal.
Tom Trbojevic is there at fullback for Manly despite clear problems with his shoulder. And Dragons CEO Ryan Webb has resigned. Newcastle's Peter Parr and Rabbitohs boss Blake Solly are being touted as replacements. Swans ruckman Brodie Grundy says the game should embrace characters like Jack Ginnivan. Port Adelaide coach Ken Hinkley was fined $20,000 for taunting Ginnivan about his controversial social media post to Grundy after the Powers' upset semi-final win over the Hawks.
I just got the popcorn out. He's a great entertainer. That's what he loves to do, and I think it's good for the game. He brings personality.
The Swans host Port at the SCG on Friday night, playing for a spot in the AFL Grand Final. Well, he hasn't played a first-class game, but 19-year-old fast bowler Marley Beardman is in line for an Australian debut. The West Australian has been called into the one-day squad ahead of Thursday's series opener against England in Nottingham. The Aussies' fast bowling ranks have been ravaged by injury.
Just incredible, so unexpected. I'm just going to try and be as much of a sponge as possible and learn off those boys. They've been doing it so well for so long now.
Beardman was man of the match in Australia's Under-19 World Cup final win. Tom Samani will coach the Matildas for the third time, this time on an interim basis, while Football Australia searches for Tony Gustafson's successor. In the UK, the star power was off the charts for a game dubbed the Hollywood Derby. Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney's Wrexham took on Birmingham, whose part owner NFL legend Tom Brady watched on with David Beckham, of course. Brady's Birmingham won easily for the record.
He wants his shot, he wants his goal. It's 3-1 Birmingham City.
The teams occupy the top two spots in English football's third tier. I reckon there are a lot of people watching the crowd more than the actual game, of course. But exciting times for football. And, of course, one of our Matildas, Katrina Gorry, she was named West Ham's captain overnight, which is awesome news.
The Aussie girls continue to shine on the world stage.
They do, once again.
Thank you, Mel.
Thanks.
This afternoon's top stories are next, plus a southwest Sydney police blitz after a shocking kidnapping and torture in broad daylight. Why it's just gone from bad to worse for a fallen TV star. And a terrifying plunge on a Qantas flight.
This is 7 News with Amber Laidler.
Welcome back. These are our top stories on 7. Fire has ravaged what's believed to be a hoarder's home in Putney. Federal politicians are locked in a stalemate over Labor's Help to Buy scheme. And new body cam video has been released showing the takedown of Donald Trump's would-be assassin. A home at Putney in Sydney's north has been destroyed in a major blaze. Firefighters say the fuel load was so great, little could be done to save the property as it was engulfed in flames. The blaze burned so fiercely there were fears it could spread to neighbouring properties. Neighbours have described the residence as a hoarder's home. They also say they've always feared a fire like this was bound to happen. Barely a month after reports of cancer-causing forever chemicals in Sydney's drinking water, troubling new research shows the problem might be far worse than anticipated. Independent testing has found the synthetic PFAS chemicals have been detected at a rate 50 times higher than Australian standards. Joining me now is Ian Wright from Western Sydney University. Good afternoon, Ian. Where was this finding made and what do the results show us?
Good evening, Amber. These are results that were collected in the Medlow Bath catchment. That's one of the small Blue Mountains catchments in between Blackheath and Katoomba. Already, Sydney Water had detected elevated PFAS chemicals at the filtration plant that's supplied by this storage, and Water New South Wales have also detected high levels in this dam. But I took samples in company with Fairfax Media, actually in the catchment upstream, and the concentrations were way, way higher, indicating we were very, very close to a hotspot that is a major source of the PFAS chemicals, which gives some indication this may be a very, very difficult problem to solve.
Do we know what the likely cause of the contamination is and if it could be here to stay?
No, we don't, but there's a lot of speculation. This is a very, very small catchment. It's mostly protected bushland, but there's a small urban area, I would say a very small suburb, which is Medlow Bath, but it's likely to go back to the Great Western Highway. It's a very busy highway through here, and whenever there have been car or truck accidents and the first responders have smelt fuel, for years, in fact decades, they would often spray those vehicles with foam. So I suspect this probably goes back decades and is related to foam, and PFOS, a type of these forever chemicals, was often used as a foaming agent for firefighting, particularly for fuel type spills or where there was a threat of fire.
Those levels of contamination are far above what's accepted by Australian standards. Is it still safe to drink tap water in Sydney?
I do. I drink tap water from Sydney, and I'm thankful that Sydney Water is now starting to make this sort of information available. I drink untreated tap water, but I must admit, if I had been in this storage, getting my water supply from, the Blackheath and Katoomba area, I would have a bit more concern, particularly if children were drinking it. It is getting close to the guidelines. But what concerns so many people across Australia, the Australian guidelines are much, much higher, that is more lenient than the United States guidelines. So I'm expecting our guidelines will change. We're still learning how to deal with this chemical and what might be safe and not safe.
Ian Wright, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Amber.
4 men have been charged over a violent crime spree in Sydney's southwest involving kidnappings, torture and shootings. 2 men were found with gunshot wounds in Claymore last month, one at a shop, the other at a park.
It is only by the grace of God that both survived, especially the male that was shot in the head.
Strike Force officers launched sweeping raids across the area this morning, arresting 4 men. Shooting with intent to murder was among their charges. A 5th man was also charged after allegedly assaulting an officer during one of today's raids. A magistrate has given Andrew O'Keefe a harsh slapdown as he fronted court yet again. The former TV presenter was told he's lucky to be alive after allegedly being caught with drugs at a police station. Bill Hogan has the story.
Good afternoon. Well, Andrew O'Keefe was described by a magistrate today as a frequent flyer as he faced Waverley Court on fresh charges. The former presenter was arrested yesterday while reporting for bail at Rose Bay Police Station. It was there the 52-year-old had an argument with a photographer that pushed him over the edge.
Go and abuse some women, mate.
O'Keefe went inside to report the incident but instead ended up in custody, charged with breaching his bail when officers allegedly found crystal meth in his possession. It comes just 2 days after he nearly died from a heroin overdose while at a party in Vaucluse, paramedics reviving him early Saturday morning. His lawyer made no application for bail today, to which Magistrate Jacqueline Millage replied, "If he wants to stay alive, it's the best thing to do. It's absolutely tragic. It's very, very sad. It's a shame that he doesn't have an epiphany." Is it fair to say that jail is the best place for Andrew O'Keefe right now? Was the decision made for his safety? O'Keefe will remain behind bars until his matter returns to court on October 10.
A Qantas flight has been forced to make an emergency landing after a confirmed pressure incident mid-air. QF 1871 was travelling from Townsville to Brisbane but was instead diverted to Rockhampton after descending 20,000 feet in just a matter of minutes. The plane continued to fly at a height of just 10,000 feet before landing safely.
Yeah, it was a bit scary when the plane went down, but yeah, that's what it is.
The pilot said that his primary concern is us, so he had to land.
Passengers have since been put on new flights to Brisbane. Harrowing new details of the Trump assassination attempt have emerged as the man accused of plotting the death of the former president appears in court. Ryan Wesley Routh, the 58-year-old at the centre of the apparent plot, has appeared briefly in court on firearms offences. Investigators say he lay waiting in the bushes bordering Trump's Florida golf course for around 12 hours, armed with a Soviet-era weapon. The former president has spoken for the first time about the moment bullets started flying.
All of a sudden, we heard shots being fired in the air, and I guess probably 4 or 5. And it sounded like bullets, but what do I know about that? But Secret Service knew immediately it was bullets.
Joe Biden is ramping up pressure on Congress to pass emergency assistance for the Secret Service to ensure the safety of both candidates. 16 people are now known to have died in the devastating floods across Central and Eastern Europe. Storm Boris brought extreme amounts of rain and the downpours haven't stopped since.
A catastrophe across Central Europe on a shocking scale. In Poland, raging rivers have swallowed villages, stranded residents rescued from roofs. It's the worst flooding the continent has seen in 30 years, from Austria to Romania. The gushing force sweeping away everything in its path, taking lives and livelihoods. Storm Boris leaving no street or road untouched. The highest rainfall has been in the Czech Republic. In one town, they spoke of unbelievable water levels.
The water was rolling in here. The flooding here is a disaster. It's really terrible.
In Austria, an area surrounding the capital Vienna has been declared a disaster zone. 2 elderly men died after being trapped in their homes, while a firefighter also lost his life.
These are difficult, dramatic times. The country and the people are under immense strain.
And it could worsen. More rain is expected over the next 48 hours. Before drier conditions move in. Italy next in the firing line. Patrick Burns, 7 News.
Council rangers across the state are being banned from giving drivers ticketless parking fines. The scheme sparked fierce backlash over concerns drivers weren't given enough time to contest fines, which often took weeks to arrive in the mail.
Ultimately, all of these fines right across New South Wales, whether it's for parking or speeding, are about changing behaviour. We would much prefer people not commit the offence in the first place rather than try and grab rivers of gold from the pockets of families across the state.
A bill to formalise the ban will be introduced later this month. There are more headaches for the ABC today, with further accusations of doctored audio in its reporting of alleged Afghan war crimes. Chief Correspondent Chris Reason has more.
Good afternoon. The former Special Forces soldier at the centre of claims of video tampering against the ABC has now doubled down, revealing more accusations against the national broadcaster.
On Sunday night, the Channel 7 Spotlight program aired a series of bombshell accusations from decorated Commando Heston Russell against the ABC and its war crimes reporting in Afghanistan 2022, including one online news story where the audio of extra gunshots appeared to have been added to the report. The ABC has now admitted an error, removed that report and launched an internal investigation. But Mr Russell alleged today that another broadcast on the flagship 7:30 report has even more added gunshots.
How many shots did you count there?
It's about 11 or 12.
Do you think they should take this down?
Absolutely. This is completely new audio brought in from somewhere else. They're digging themselves a deeper hole because there's been many edits made to sensationalise this story.
The ABC has been contacted for comment, but Mr Heston, who's already won a successful defamation case against the broadcaster for $400,000, also wants an apology and is calling for a parliamentary inquiry into the issue. The Prime Minister refusing to be drawn on the matter today.
The ABC should continue to be independent of political interference.
The federal opposition has also called for the ABC to provide a clear and public explanation for the video once its internal inquiry is complete. Back to you.
We'll have a wrap on today's market movements with ING just ahead, plus the bombshell claims of a cover-up surrounding a controversial former politician. And always in Vogue, a special look at a golden era for the fashion powerhouse. It's 19 degrees in the city. Grace Fitzgibbon has Sydney's full forecast soon.
The Instagram game changer, a major new announcement from the social media platform to support protecting your kids. Plus, the fitness trend defying gravity. See why more Aussies are taking up the viral workout. Start with Sunrise.
Together.
The biggest transformation to aged care in Australia's history is here. 5 must-see stories over 5 nights, from the senior Australians living in luxury for less to revolutionary at-home care on a budget. We reveal how to set yourself and your loved ones up for A+ aged care. 7 News at 6.
A damning report has triggered new calls for police to reopen inquiries into a car crash involving one of Australia's most controversial politicians. As Nick McLaughlin reports, former Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews and his wife have been criticised by a former top traffic cop.
The review by Victoria's former top traffic police officer, Raymond Shuey, who died 2 weeks ago, was commissioned by Ryan Mullerman's lawyers for a civil legal case. At the scene today with supporters, Ryan's father, Peter, demanded police reopen the case.
We want to see the truth get out there and we want to see justice for Ryan.
As depicted in this recreation, in 2013, Ryan, then 15, was on a bike involved in an accident with an SUV carrying then opposition leader Daniel Andrews and his family.
He was moving at speed. He was absolutely T-boned the car, hit it at such force. It was literally inside the car.
But Dr. Shuey accused Mr. and Mrs. Andrews of lying, saying that version is improbable and implausible. Dr. Shuey also accused police of an overt cover-up to avoid implicating a political figure. The investigation, he said, was negligent, with a high level of incompetence or a deliberate attempt to simplify the crash. The response from police today was terse. In a statement, they said they and IBAC had thoroughly investigated this case and had no further comment.
Sydney's 6 p.m. news is coming up with Mark Ferguson and Angela Cox. Afternoon, Mark. What's on the program?
Yeah, good afternoon, Amber. Tonight we have harrowing new details on the plot to kill Donald Trump. Police have released video of the moment they took down his would-be assassin. A home in Sydney's north gutted by flames, what caused the blaze and why firefighters say it's likely to burn through the night. Police make a breakthrough over an alleged underworld hit gone wrong in our southwest. A rare win for frustrated Sydney drivers. No more ticketless parking fines. What you need to know about the changes. We break down the real benefits of in-home care as the government overhauls our aged care system, saving money and giving many seniors peace of mind. And meet Sydney's littlest battler, the boy who spent more than 500 days and 2 birthdays in hospital. Tonight, he's finally heading home. Amber, that wonderful moment and much more tonight at 6.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Mark. More than 100 students from all across Sydney have come together to compete at the Northcote Athletics Carnival for children with disability. Students from 4 local primary schools have converged on Blacktown International Sports Park for a day of events dedicated to empowering kids through the joy of sport. Events include the 100 and 200 metre sprint, long jump and shot put, along with non-competitive activities like soccer, hula hooping and Zumba. If fashion had a heyday, it was arguably the 90s when trends were dominated by supermodels and celebrities. High-end magazine Vogue always had its glossy finger on the pulse, and a documentary about its coverage of that glittering decade has premiered in London.
Fashion in the 1990s, sometimes as wild and wacky as it was inspiring and influential. And on hand to document and critique every crop top and daring dress was Vogue magazine.
That seems to be more in the palette. Yeah.
Now there's a documentary, In Vogue, the 90s, looking at what made that fashion decade so special.
Maybe it was because things were not much, but they were definitely simpler. We didn't have to worry about so many different platforms and everything appearing on social media.
For those in the industry, making it onto the privileged pages of Vogue was a statement of success.
What would it mean to a designer in the 90s to have their work featured within a magazine?
Everything, literally, because it was the magazine of reference. That was a way to, in a way, establish yourself within the world of fashion.
Since its first edition in 1892, the coveted cover pages have featured fashion's elite. But the 90s saw the supermodels occasionally make way for other stars.
And I was I was the only editor who said, let's put celebrities on the cover because we have to expand the readership.
High fashion has on occasion faced criticism for a lack of body diversity. To be representative and in turn relatable, big bosses have encouraged change.
Body diversity and body inclusivity is so important. It's something we talk to designers about all the time, and thank goodness it's changed.
Each decade has its fashion do's and don'ts. Just be sure that if you're going to wear it with confidence.
Checking finance now, and the ASX 200 continued its rally today, reaching a new all-time high. Here's Peter Casey from ING Bank.
Good afternoon. The ASX 200 continued its rally today, reaching a new all-time high earlier this afternoon. The market finished up 19 points, or 0.2% on the day, with markets boosted by the chance of a 50 basis point rate cut in the US later this week. The rally was broad-based, with medical and pharmaceutical stocks helping to lead the market higher. Biotechnology company PolyNovo was the biggest mover on the day, up nearly 6%. Glove maker Ansell also had a good day, up 4%. The Aussie dollar continued its recent strong run, trading at 67.58 US cents, boosted by those expectations of the rate cuts coming in the US.
Next in 7's afternoon news, Grace is back with your latest weather forecast.
Good afternoon, Monique Bavino here in the Oldcastle Homes traffic chopper. We've had a very slow run for the M4 motorway this afternoon. Following an earlier crash at Eastern Creek, that westbound run has been choked up all the way back past the Cumberland Highway and Parramatta Road is getting a very heavy run. This is westbound through Auburn after an earlier crash heading towards Woodville Road. Oldcastle's Palace Regent offers a huge 45 squares of luxury living with 5 substantial bedrooms, large balcony and more. Oldcastlehomes.com.au.
Tonight in 7 News, fire emergency in Sydney's north. What sparked this inferno at Putney? New video, how police caught Donald Trump's would-be assassin. Big changes to Sydney's parking ticket rules. Build the ambitious plan to make our southwest look like Manhattan, and Sydney's very own hamburger court. That's at 6.
The demise of a key player in the domestic market is costing travellers more. New government data shows the cheapest economy fares were up more than 12% since July, following Rex's exit from popular routes. Business class fares remained consistent over that time, but are also up 12% in the past year. Grace is back now with your full weather forecast. Grace, we've got a warm day on the way tomorrow.
Yes, Amber, plenty more sunshine where today came from. You might have felt a little bit cooler this morning, though. That's because we woke to a low of just 9 degrees. But thankfully, the sunshine bumped us up to 22 by lunch. Right now, it's 18 degrees outside. Get used to the cooler mornings because there is a series of cold fronts headed our way, and they are expected to bring some fresh, gusty winds to the south. But otherwise, it should remain fairly clear, potentially some showers along the coastal fringe. The unsettled weather mostly affecting Tasmania and Victoria. Speaking of, let's see what's happening around the country tomorrow. A warm 25 degrees on the way for those in Brisbane. It's looking a little windy in Canberra with a top of 19 expected there. Showers are likely in Melbourne tomorrow and a high of 20 degrees. Similar conditions for Hobart and sunshine and 24 degrees in Perth. It's looking a little wet in Darwin. Some possible storm activity as well, a top of 32 degrees. Back in Sydney's CBD, another low of 9 on the way, same as this morning, but it is looking much warmer throughout the day. We're expecting a top of 26 degrees. Overall, it's looking fairly clear and sunny at this stage. As for the rest of the week, well, I like the look of that lineup. Plenty of sunshine. We've got a 27-degree top on the way for Thursday. It's looking clear and 24 degrees in our west into Friday. And then on the weekend, nothing but good news. There's no rain on the radar at this stage. We're expecting tops of 25 degrees and plenty of sunshine. And into next week, it looks like 23-degree highs on Monday and 25 into Tuesday. I can't wait. I'm so glad it's warming up. Amber?
Lots to look forward to, Grace. We'll see you at 6. And that is Sydney's 4 p.m. news for this Tuesday. Mark Ferguson and Angela Cox will bring you 7 News at 6. I'm Amber Laidler. Stay with 7 Now for the Chase Australia. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.